This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, very good. I just need to mention I had it here, but I seem to have misplaced it. That this meeting is conducted remotely under the orders of the governor. The information I don't have in my hand here, so I will say, but the only other thing I need to note is that all votes need to be done by roll call since we are not doing it in person. So I call the meeting to order at 6:19. And if we have, and I'll do the roll call. Maribel Cruz.
Present.
Are you here?
Yes.
Yes. Phil Duffy.
I'm here.
Laura Schifflin.
Here.
Roger Hoyt. Roger. There we go. Roger. Well, I'll skip him for a second. If you could chime in when you have a chance, Roger. Alan Pease.
Here.
Okay, and we're just waiting for Roger to say he's here, but even without Roger commenting, we do have a quorum, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a quorum. Okay, next on the agenda, oh, wrong packet. Well, on the next item on the agenda, we have approval of the April 2nd, 2020 MRPC Executive Committee meeting, but they have not been transcribed yet.
Okay.
They're in the process of being transcribed, so we will need a motion to put those off till next month.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Okay, we have a first from Laura Schifflin and a second from Phil Duffy. Now I will call a roll. Let's see, Maribel Cruz on the motion.
Present.
Okay, Phil Duffy,
Aye.
Laura Schifflin,
Aye.
Roger Hoyt.
Aye,
Oh, there we go. Now we have Roger and
now you
Alan
hear
Pease.
me, okay.
Aye.
Okay, very good. So we'll put those off to the next meeting. Now, next and only item on the agenda is the executive director's review process. Now, in your emails, I think it was last Sunday, we received two, well, I'll call them draft executive director performance appraisal process and assessment forms. One form was a blank form of 19 pages, and the other form was 50-some pages, which was Glenn's assessment of himself. The way he did it was he put down the 2019 assessment of himself, and then he put down the this year's assessment. One he did in regular typing, and this year's assessment was done in all caps. So I don't think we'd have a chance to go over these, fill them in, and do them tonight. So I thought we'd skim through them, see if anybody had any comments, and if not, if you have an idea on what to do, to maybe do them in the next 2 weeks, get them to Glenn, and then we'd have the one more meeting. He'd give the what happened, and we'll go from there. And now, question, I see Laura Schifflin has her hand open.
Yeah, if I may, and I apologize if I don't remember what happened last fall, because I was in on the beginning of the process, and then, as you know, my son was ill, and then the end of the year just was a blur to me. So can I ask the question? I did review all of Glenn's comments, and I did remember the form, and I did remember reviewing it last September, October timeframe. So at the end of last year, did the board give Glenn a raise?
Glenn, could you answer that? Because we did not per se give him a raise based on the appraisal. I don't think his raises are dependent on it. Maybe I'm wrong.
So-
Could you speak to that, Glenn?
Well, raises, increments, salary bumps happen every July 1st. So all
No
the
matter
staff had
what?
received, all staff had received a raise the prior July 1, and then we opened up the evaluation process in the
Okay.
fall, completed it by December, and then there's an evaluation process now this spring of 20. So the evaluation, I guess, no, people get evaluated. The reality is that my evaluation goes to this coming July. This fall evaluation goes to this coming July's bump.
But if I'm not mistaken, she was asking, there is no policy or in place that your raise every year is dependent on the appraisal. And since we've only done this once, so there is no history in this. But your bump appraise is the same as your pay, as I say, increase is the same as everybody else's.
It happens at the same time, but I should be evaluated per policy like everybody else.
Yes, but what I'm saying is your financial, how much of a raise you get is not dependent on what type of appraisal you get.
That is correct. No one's is. All the employees, it's basically a pass-fail system from decades ago. Right.
Okay, so to that, I did review every word that you said, and I tried really hard to listen to you. And so I'm going to make some comments of what I took from everything I read. Number one, correct me if I'm wrong, when we're doing this assessment or review, it actually probably should have been done every year. And so when you're doing it and you're assessing someone's performance for that period of time, that's what it's for. It's for the period of time that you're in. So 2 decades ago or 10 years ago or 5 years ago really doesn't come into play. Is one takeaway that I had from it. The second part was, and it seemed to be a theme last year as well as this year, although I understand right currently now, we're in a much, well, every situation has its pros and cons, but we're in because we're remote and you are dealing with, is it 13 or 14 people? Because I saw the 2 numbers in the report. How many employees do we have now?
We have 14, so you would have seen 13 plus me or 14. We have 14 employees, including.
Okay, so it's with you. So under you, you're dealing with 13 different people now, and you need to deal with it remotely. And yes, I know from having different clients that even though we may have done some of the things the same way, it's still a little more time consuming than it was before, than being in person, with someone or being able to do the task yourself rather than handing it to somebody else. So I understand that, but I feel in a lot of your comments, you still have frustrations with certain staff employees. And I guess, but you're the person in charge of those people. And I'm wondering why you still have those employees if you can't get them to do what you need them to do or perform in the way that because this is your job to get them to do that, perform in the way that they should be doing, they seem to be causing you and possibly others in the group, organization, more harm than good. So, and I'm really not asking for any answers from you right now, since we're going to go through maybe a week or so of period, but I just wanted to give you my feelings of when I read what you wrote. And I would be interested in hearing, obviously, from the other board members, what their take was on it too. Thank you for your time.
Well, myself, I can't comment because I haven't gone through all of his comments. I just kind of skipped over it. We just got these less than a week ago.
Right.
So what I was thinking of doing tonight is just going over this format, running through it, and then we would fill them out on our own in the next couple of weeks and send them in. Any comments in regards to that?
Guy, as to how you recommend we proceed, I think that's the only possibly feasible way to proceed. It's going to take a few weeks to go through these and digest them. Find the time to do an evaluation or a response to Glenn's evaluation. Laura, I happen to agree with you in a number of points. You know, the kind of the historical record, you know, going back to 2004 or so, it's interesting, but it's not necessarily germane to a year-by-year performance analysis. There were a couple places in the responses to questions where there were, you know, references to one or two employees, or in particular to one or two tasks or reports that were not done in a timely fashion. And it's keeping in respect the need for employee confidentiality. It was hard to parse through what those were. Glenn, if you don't mind sharing, what was the report that was referred to a couple times as the 2019 report that was not done in a timely manner, I guess was my takeaway?
So if I tell you the department, then I'd be giving away the employer or the employees. What I can say is that of the 13 people that I'm responsible for, one of those didn't submit a report on time, and it wasn't meeting the high quality standards that I expect from folks. There's a supervisor involved in between me and that party. After extensive conversation, and may or may not have included progressive discipline, the employee responded affirmatively. And to Laura's point, there were two employees that I've been struggling with off and on, and that's down to one. So, and of that one that's left, that person will absolutely never change. The person does a reasonable amount of work, does a decent job for the client, and the client in question is very happy with that person's performance. I wish it could be higher. So that's just a quick response to, I guess, the whole issue.
Okay, great. Just want to break in here and note for the record that John Tolopiak has joined the meeting.
That's
Welcome,
correct.
John.
I
Okay,
actually
very
was
good.
I had the other number. I was waiting for the other meeting that starts at 7. I apologize.
No problem. Okay, very good. We're discussing the appraisals that we got that was sent out over the weekend, if I'm not mistaken. And any other comments from anybody on how we're going to move forward on this? Do we want to go over it tonight? Somewhat just do a cursory review over the questions, and if anybody has any questions or comments, whether they feel this form is appropriate or there's any problems with it. Anybody to speak up?
Yeah, I had a question on the form you filled out, Glenn. Up in the instructions, there were a few sentences that were highlighted in blue or changed to blue color. I just wondered if there was any significance to that.
Let me demute myself and look really quickly at the document. The thing I'm seeing in blue is just the criterion, each criterion or all the criteria are highlighted in blue just to make them stand out from anything that's blue or black. There's no significance in it whatsoever. It's just this is the next criterion that's next down the road on the page. For
Okay,
randomly. I'm sorry.
yeah, there's no real significance. Okay.
No.
The other thing I wanted to mention is that while we're going through this, we should have at least in the back of our minds whether there's anything anybody wants to change, add, subtract, modify. Because, this was taken from another evaluation. And so we should take a look at it and make sure it's our own. And I noticed some of the things I say highlighted in blue. It says the evaluations should be distributed to all the commission members. Well, clearly we're not doing that at this point, and is that something we want to change? I'm thinking of those types of things, having in the back of your mind.
Okay, so you're thinking there should be some things in here that need to be changed. Maybe not for this
Well-
year, but for, just for clarification.
Yeah, just so it's clear, ongoing.
Yes. Okay. Okay, now we have what, a total of, was there 15 questions here, or is there anyone that anybody has seen that they don't like, going to Alan's point, anything that thinks that needs to be changed within these questions? Communications, well, I'll just look at the first thing, how much time, we got plenty of time here. Now we have Glenn's comments, but then we have to go through and make our comments on quality and customer satisfaction. Is our first one here. That could be appropriate. Customer financial leadership. The next one there. Now, Glenn has a lot of comments because this is 19 pages and his one with the comments is 53. So he's got at least double the amount of pages of comments. So then we have community partnership.
And I'm just, you guys know I'm fairly new to this, and it's.
This is Maribel, correct?
Yes. I just think this is so tedious. There's a lot of questions that pertain to staff members. Well, we're not there on a day-to-day to see how he treats the staff or how the staff responds to him or how his relationships are with other town members. They could say something. I just don't know how we're going to evaluate or honestly be able to say, oh, yeah, he's great at this, or he needs improvement in that, or, can his review be just like him submitting an annual report of everything that he's done throughout the year instead of us having to go through each and every little thing that he does or doesn't do? And we can evaluate what he's done for the whole year and what he's done within the organization.
That's a possibility. No, that doesn't sound bad, but I say, this is the horse we have today.
57 pages is.
Yes, but the questionnaire itself, and actually there's 15 questions here. Yes, I agree with you that some of the things we don't really know, or we can just maybe assume when we're, or making almost a guess when we're filling this out, from what we've seen his actions. So yeah, you're right.
you know, when the mayor submits his annual report, it's for the whole city. It's for the people that, you know, work with him as well. But he's given an update as, you know, I've done this, 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 and this, and the city has done this. Your organization can do the same. It's on the same
Yeah.
idea, where you can just highlight everything that was done, positive or negative, and what your plans are for the future, or, you know, we have this coming up. I don't know. I just think this is a little.
Now, in Gardner, I know here in Winchendon, the Board of Selectmen does a review of the town manager every year, and they go to specific questions. I mean, he gives his report on what he's done, and does Gardner have it the same way? Now you have councilmen there. Do they review the
Gardner has
mayor?
it, Pittsburgh has it, and he sends out an annual report, and
Yeah,
he,
but
you
this
know.
is not a report. This is our appraisal of him.
Right. Well, he can tell us what he's done and what he, you know, where his shortfalls were, or, you know, you had this
Yeah.
project last year. Did you finish it? What was the result of last year's project, and what's going on for this coming year? Kind of a deal.
Yeah, but okay, yeah, that's one way of looking at it. Any other comments on it?
Yeah, I think it's the responsibility of the commission to provide the evaluation for the executive director. It gives the executive director some guidance as to what the commission is thinking about how progress is made. It gives a way for him to respond to that, whether, you know, modifying the direction over the course of the year or just verbally respond to comments and so forth. So I think it's really a responsibility. It's far different from a mayor who is an elected official, and the voters will pass judgment on the mayor. But in an organization like this, where the board of directors is at the top, they really need to pass judgment or direction, give directions to the executive director, broad base, you know. I will agree with Maribel that some of those questions I found difficult because I didn't have enough experience with them. I had to rely on some limited information, and sometimes I was even tempted to say, I really can't answer this because I don't know enough to reply. So I think that's a valid response from a member who says, I don't know anything about employee relations, for example, to just say, I don't know anything about this. I can't respond. But I think it's still a valid process.
I agree with you on that, and I know Winchendon goes through the same way. The town manager gives his report and tells what he's going to do the next year, but the selectmen do rate him, and they do have a set criteria, set questions that they answer on, whether he gets a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. If everybody knows Bert Gould, he gave Jim Kreidler zeros on everything. But
Maribel raises, this is Phil Duffy. Two things. One, this is the tool we have in front of us, and it's the tool we had last year. So in that respect, there's at least some merit in being able to consistently to see what changes there may be, what changes there may be in the response to specific and identical questions on a year-to-year basis. That said, you know, this tool that we've developed for review and evaluation, I'm not sure if it's asking the right questions, or to Maribel's point, I'm not sure if it's asking questions that we have any capacity to answer. We don't know exactly. I remember expressing this frustration last year. We don't know about staff morale and about how well or how poorly staff may be being brought along professionally. We have a very limited understanding of kind of, you know, roles with the communities. It's only perceived through the meetings. And, you know, one thing is sitting in the Mills report, in the absence of a strategic plan, it's really hard to make any kind of evaluation of performance, because you're not, I mean, how you perform, what are you comparing a year-to-year performance against? You know, what are the goals that you're, you know, what is it that you're trying to do? How is the organization's mission identified in a strategic plan that we can evaluate to see if the organization is doing what it's supposed to do on a timely basis? And so
Good point.
that's sitting in the middle of this evaluation. But, you know, there's so many questions that, you know, I appreciate that Glenn's answers are a response to those questions, but but we can only evaluate them as Glenn's responses, not as Glenn's responses as compared to
Yeah.
something that exists as a guide, as some kind of guidance for the organization and you know, for the an indicator of where the organization's resources, chiefly professional, are being placed.
Yeah, and I do mention in the evaluation that we need a strategic plan, because out of the strategic plan, there's the statutory authority that creates RPAs. Out of that, there should be a strategic plan. And then out of that, personnel can be gauged and projects can be gauged. They can be assessed. You know, did we do that? You know, let's say there are five. Let's say that there are 5 things in the statute. You know, what I remember from the statute all the time is delivery of technical assistance in the area of planning. You know, do we deliver enough? So that's a metric that can be stated, put in the strategic plan, and then people can be judged against that in the future. So Phil, that's a great point, and you will find strategic planning mentioned in the evaluation.
Excuse me, Guy here. I just want to mention that I did speak to Glenn earlier today and said that we need to have what his goals are for the year coming up. So that I asked him if he could, in the next couple of weeks, get to us what his goals are for the next year. So when it comes to next year, maybe we can look at those goals and do his appraisal on whether he met those goals, whether he did not, and tweak this appraisal to more reflect that, whether he met the goals that are necessary, and for the committee to work on that.
That would certainly be more pertinent. I mean, I agree with Maribel and certainly with Phil. You know, we see, you know, how much time do we spend with Glenn? Some people more than others, and you know, you're kind of like guessing at a lot of this if you don't.
Yeah, so I think for next year, or actually for this year, we need the goals for next year, and then we can rate them on the goals and anything else that we want to add to it, and work on this on an ongoing basis. Another comment I'd like to make on this is Maribel did bring a good point about she doesn't know how to appraise them on, say, how we worked with a certain bit of staff or whatever. I think maybe if you can answer a question, don't answer it. But when it comes to to add up the appraisals, you take off that amount of points. If a question is not answered, you take off the points when you're getting what the final goal is, because we ran into that problem last year, that he gave him an appraisal on the total, say like each appraisal was a total of 50 points, and he got 43 out of 50. But if somebody didn't answer a question, he only got 35, but he still based it on 50. So I think when you go to do up these scores, you take that into consideration, Glenn. And so that will make us feel that we don't have to answer a question.
No, I think I understand what you're saying. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Again, however you want, folks want to do the appraisal process, you know, I'm your staff, so that's fine.
I think we should be able to. Sorry, I think we should be able to just give you a score on transportation, brownfields, planning, community projects, and things like that, and just give you a 1 through 10 in each one of those fields, and be able to give you an evaluation on what you've done in the past for the year, and then what your goals are for next year. And if the corporation or if the business isn't financially, you know, is it better than it was last year financially, or, you know, something. I know Phil will be able to express it better. He's more affluent than I am, you know. But just on things that we talk about during the meetings, those are the things we'll be able to evaluate you on. Your projects, what have you been doing? You know, each of your team members will be able to give you a report, and you'll be able to say how you assisted them or how you guided them in those field, in each of those projects.
It's very clear to me, Maribel. Yeah, you just outlined the goal sheet that I'll develop for the next 2 weeks to have, and you should have that now for this evaluation process. I did write up goals. I did after the last evaluation process. For those of you that have cameras, this is what's left of the laptop that I had it on, and that's the hard drive. So I'm still trying to see if I can get it. A lot of the files were corrupted. And then also, and you'll hear about this probably tonight or in June. I did my actual PC at work. I couldn't sign in. We can remote into our PCs. Not me anymore. Mine died last week, and it just decided to give up the ghost. So I did have a simple 1-page goal that wrapped everything up. Honestly, it might have been a page and a half, but I can recreate it. And I think this is great instruction to me tonight.
Glenn, further questions. I mean, there are kind of functional tasks that the organization provides that are services to communities. There's also the internal side of the organization. What are the organization's financial goals? What is the organization's goals in terms of personnel, in terms of professional development, in terms of morale?
I'm taking the notes, Phil. I'm not ignoring you.
And I bring we had it's interesting that in the last year we had both issues of lapses in oversight on the financial side, and at least the expression of one disgruntled employee. And at least in terms of that letter sitting on the executive committee, that whole process by which we reviewed that was unfortunately opaque. And that's what, so it's kind of like we're sitting here quite apart from the organization. As Guy says, we're the executive committee for this organization. But there's no kind of vertical, to my understanding, there's no kind of vertical performance review. I mean, we're not getting the information from people on the other side of Glenn, which might be helpful in terms of evaluating, or not evaluating, at least understanding some of those administrative non-service components of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm suggesting that we might want to consider that in future reviews.
Well, actually, we have 3 minutes. A good point, Phil. And I think for future, but right now, we have 3 minutes left to decide whether we're going to move forward with the appraisal that we have in front of us, or do we restart it, or what's the pleasure of the board? Myself, I would like to see move forward. If you can't answer a question, don't answer it, and note that you're not answering it. You will take it out of the total scores, and we'll see what he scored on. Otherwise, we work the program, and he will give us his goals for next year at our next meeting, or in 2 weeks, I should say. Isn't that correct? So what's the pleasure of the board?
Well, I'm for continuing it. It's valuable, and at least we've brought up some issues here, strategic plan, goals. It's created some comments that I think need to be addressed overall. So I think we ought to proceed with what we have.
Yeah.
If we wish to modify it, we should look at that for doing that next year.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you on that one, Alan. Anybody have any comments on the other side of the coin? Okay, very good. Well, yeah, go ahead.
We should move forward on this. And in terms of, Glenn talking about establishing goals, we look forward that we're unfortunately, this is the most cockamamie year in which to try to understand what your 12-month goals are going to be. 12-month goal for the organization is resiliency. It's just to basically still be here as intact as possible, absent some other, I don't know where you are, Glenn, but on the municipal side, revenues are uncertain for next year. We don't know what it's going to look like. So,
right.
In terms of establishing goals, I'd suggest that not only reflecting on past performance, but looking into the next 12 months, if you're going to establish a statement of goals for the coming fiscal year, that obviously it reflect that these are extraordinary times.
And that's where I'm going to pour my time. And I did at the last commission meeting that we had remotely. If this is the May meeting, that would have been the April meeting. So we met in person in March, and I said at the April meeting, for about 10 minutes or so, we will never be the same. It'll be very different. I can imagine, the XYZ program going away because the state budget is projected to be down $1 to $3 billion. Will DLTA exist? And other examples that I gave, where we'll probably go after every EDA penny that we can find. So it's going to be very different. But it's the perfect time to do some strategic planning, to do some goal setting, and to start with. It's like a clean slate year in a way.
Okay, I guess our time is up because we're going to have to start the next meeting in 5 minutes. So I think the consensus is if we get these filled out, get them into Glenn in the next 2 weeks, he gets his goals to us. And just one other comment, I don't know if you noticed in his comments, he would like to make the position of a assistant director. And we will discuss that at our next meeting.
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Any other comments before I ask for a motion to adjourn?
Well, the only question I have is, since I was a little confused as to where I was going for this meeting, are we on the same, or is there a different number for the regular commission meeting?
Let me see here. I'm pretty sure there is.
The
'Cause
different
I gotten a whole bunch of different
John,
emails.
Yeah, there is.
John,
The
if you
access-
open up the chat window, I just sent the link for the new meeting in the chat window.
Jason, do we have to wait? Will the screen going to close on us when this meeting is closed?
I'm going to close this meeting and then go open up a different one.
Okay, and when you close this meeting, is that link in the chat window going to go away?
Yes.
Okay, so we should click on it now.
Right-click copy. It's a copy, copy link address.
Okay.
And then you can just paste it. Or you can go to the mrpc.org and
Yeah.
click on the appropriate meeting. It would have it there, okay?
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
that's from
Second.
Laura. Second. Okay, and who seconded? Well, I have a
Second.
second.
Someone else did as well.
Okay. Maribel, all in favor? Or Maribel?
Aye.
Bill Duffy?
Aye.
Lauren? Lauren?
Aye.
Laura?
Aye.
Okay, and Alan?
Aye.
And the meeting is adjourned at 6:56.